Hello, I'm Ron Burgundy, and welcome to HTF Bets. We have a scary good football-themed show for you today with our top fantasy football disappointments this season, our top surprises this season, and of course, our ShFire Pick of the Week. And boo, someone won. So don't go anywhere because HTF Bets starts right now. And welcome back. I'm joined by Bob the Minion. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Just came back from Still in the Moon, so
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. No wonder it was so dark last night.
Yep.
I want to get right into football, but we're missing someone. Where's
Where's
Tyler?
Has joined the table. I am LA Knight, your United States champion.
Welcome back, champ. What's your ShFire Pick record? We'll get into that later.
we'll
Don't
get
worry.
that later.
Don't worry. We are talking about our top fantasy disappointments this season, and we're joined by Ben Huber. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, everybody. Thank you for having me on the show. And you guys are all the real heroes. So thanks for having me on.
No doubt, no doubt. So we're going to get right into my pick for disappointment of the year so far. It is Brandon Ayuk, okay? Now, I understand that this might not be totally fair because he's injured, but he was so bad before he got injured, okay? And for someone who drafted him second or maybe even third round in almost every league I was in, I had him in 3 different leagues, guys, out of 5. He was a major disappointment. His best game of the season by a long shot was his 8-reception, 147-yard performance against the Cardinals. That only happened once. His other stats included 23 receiving yards, 37 receiving yards, 48 back-to-back weeks, and then 43 and 28. Like, those were his receiving yards record or stats from every game this season. And it's just extremely disappointing for someone that was, again, a second-round pick in most fantasy drafts, third round in some, and now he's out for the season. So while, he wasn't putting up a lot of numbers, he was the wide receiver 44, getting 9.1 points per game. He, is still a missing part of my team now, and I don't like you for that. But now he's injured. But also, shout out to Sam Laporta after an amazing rookie season. He was drafted as tight end 1 in some leagues, definitely a top 3 tight end in pretty much every league, and he has not been that this season. So, yesterday was National Tight End Day. He did have a good game because of that, but that's about it. So, Andrew, or Bob, should I say?
Yeah.
Who's your disappointment of the season?
It sounds like there's a little bit of a personal vendetta
There
against
is.
Brandon Ayuk.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. I was catching the vibe.
Fellow
there.
Bay Area guy.
Been ruining
I
his
just-
season pretty hard this year.
Yeah, 3 leagues is a little tough. My personal one, there's no personal vendetta. I just don't think he's been having a great season so far. It's Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is dang near synonymous with quarterback play and the standard of excellence at this point, but he has not been that this season. He has 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, which is one of the worst ratios in the league. It's not even 1-to-1. He has more interceptions than touchdowns this season, which is highly disappointing for a lot of fantasy owners, as most people took him as their quarterback 1 or 2. He was at least a consensus top 3 quarterback in this year's draft. A lot of people were taking him in the second round, if not the third or the fourth, which is a little bit of a reach for quarterbacks in fantasy. Everyone knows that with a good quarterback, you can have a great season, but Patrick Mahomes just hasn't been that this season. He's rostered in 95% of ESPN leagues, which is insane that that's not 100% given the fact that where he was drafted and given the fact that he is Patrick Mahomes. So people are starting to realize that he hasn't been good this season, and well, at least for the context of fantasy. And he needs to be not on rosters, or there's people in place of him that could go where he is, because he's the quarterback 22 of the season, which means that there are 21 other quarterbacks that have been better for fantasy than Patrick Mahomes, which there aren't I'm sure there's a lot of quarterbacks that are currently on waivers that you could pick up that have higher averages than Patrick Mahomes. He's only averaging 14.3 points, and obviously those interceptions have been costly to a lot of fantasy owners. So I know that if you did draft him pretty high up, you're not happy with his performance, and definitely one of the biggest fantasy disappointments this season, I'd say.
100%. And shout out to our episode a couple weeks ago when we discussed the MVP race. He was leading that race because of name value alone. He's had a very bad season, and yet the Chiefs are still undefeated.
I will say the MVP is a little bit of a different discussion just because of the fact that the Chiefs are undefeated. So it makes a little bit more sense in that context.
But is it because of Patrick Mahomes' play this year? I don't think you can really say that.
No. They've definitely leaned on their defense more so, but I think that he also hasn't had to do as much as he usually has to. He keeps them in the game, and then they end up winning the game. So I think that can be attributed to him a little bit, but definitely not completely. And the defense has been a huge part of it this season.
And a big thing I think that's hurt Patrick Mahomes is the injuries, obviously, to Kansas City. Obviously, Rashee Rice was injured by Patrick Mahomes inadvertently and got out and is now out for the year. So that's been a big loss for Kansas City and their offense. Isaiah Pacheco as well, another great weapon for Mahomes. So, and Travis Kelce is just getting older and older.
Travis
so it's
Kelce's playing like he's
this
injured.
continuous of like, he doesn't have many offensive weapons around him as he's used to.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is one of his top 2 wide receivers right now. So definitely not a good supporting cast, but like you just automatically expect more than Patrick Mahomes, more from Patrick Mahomes because he is Patrick Mahomes. But I don't know. A 6-0, 6-7-0 record now is awesome, but I don't know. Fantasy owners are definitely disappointed this season.
Yeah, and Ben, any thoughts on Patrick Mahomes being a disappointment? That's not something we're used to hearing.
Yeah, honestly, I did not expect Patrick Mahomes to be playing so bad this year. It's honestly unprecedented, but when you have all your top targets go out, it makes some sense. So,
100%. And someone that I personally am not happy with, and I don't think you are either, Ben, but Tyler, get into your disappointment.
So my disappointment, let me talk to you about Tyreek Hill, all right? He's currently the wide receiver 40 and is averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game. It has been an atrocious year for Tyreek Hill when he's been many people's wide receiver ones in drafts this season. And, you know, we thought he'd be back in business, right? Week 1, an outstanding week 1, over 100 yards and a touchdown. That's been his lone touchdown on the season. After that, it has been disappointment after disappointing performance. Had a bit of a bounce back last week, but getting into double figures again. But again, it has just been terrible season for Tyreek Hill. And now, obviously, the big reason is because of the rotating door at quarterback that the Miami Dolphins have had. Obviously, Tua was out with a concussion. Then Skyler got hurt. Then Tyler Huntley got hurt. They had Tim Boyle throwing him the ball at one point, for God's sake. So not all of it is Tyreek Hill's fault, but the opening games where Tua was still healthy, you still weren't seeing that Tyreek Hill that we're used to, of explosive plays and like 50-yard touchdowns. It just was gone, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback play is a major thing, and I almost don't think it's a fair pick, but whatever.
Yeah, I feel like as Dolphins fans, like I'm watching.
You're surrounded right now.
I am.
Yeah.
I always am on this show.
Well, we can. Yeah.
Watching every single play, it does feel like he's like maybe lost like half a step, but I definitely don't think it's because of him. Like the fact that we had Tyler Huntley throwing him the ball for a majority of the season definitely doesn't help. And whenever he did get past the defense, it felt like the ball was 30 yards underthrown. So I like
that's a stretch.
Yeah, maybe not 30.
Come on.
Yeah,
maybe 20.
It's like
Maybe I just still have belief in Tua, but
No. I not on Tua's part at all. Tua comes back and he automatically has double digits again. I just think that I'm more referring to Tyler Huntley. He doesn't have the greatest arm either. Yes. So I don't know. Tyreek, and with the offense being in motion so much, having a new quarterback come in, it's especially detrimental to this offense. But I think that Tyreek Hill is definitely a good pick because of the fact that he was taken in the first round, and you just expect more from somebody who's so dominant. But I don't know. It's not completely like I guess fair, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, Ben, you've chosen another player from a Florida team who's also been very disappointing, who I also drafted in a league. Who is this?
Yeah, it's been tough sledding for the whole Jaguars offense, but especially for Travis Etienne. He's the RB 37 in fantasy right now. Not very good. And to put the cherry on top, Tank Bigsby looks pretty dang good. And yeah, Travis Etienne, he only has 56 carries for 230 yards, only 2 touchdowns. Tank Bigsby's getting all the goal line work, and he's also been injured for like 2 weeks. So that makes it like even worse. But honestly, it feels like right now that he's almost not even worth it to have on your roster. It sounds crazy to say that. He was picked in, I'd say, the top 10 running backs this season, and I had high hopes for him. I picked him in 1 or 2 leagues, but yeah, very bad for Travis Etienne this season.
Yeah, I mean, Justice Covert and the rest of our Jags fans here are in shambles because that team is not looking good. Did have a close loss this week, but yeah, Etienne, not a great fantasy pick.
I will say I think it's always so interesting how the NFL seasons play out because you just automatically assume that some people in good situations are going to have good years, but that's not always how it works out. I think Patrick Mahomes is a prime example of that, and Travis Etienne reflects that as well. You expect these guys to come in and have 100 yards every game, 10 plus fantasy points every game. That's just not how the NFL works. That you're going to get stopped. There's going to be rotational situations where you're not going to get the ball and people aren't going to perform. So it is always a little bit sad to see because of the fact that a lot of people are going in the first, second round and you're expecting them to do so well, and then it turns out that they are RB37 in Travis Etienne's case.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can't tell, our moods are a little bit mellow because these were the disappointments of the season. However, after this commercial, we will be talking about some of the surprises, so you won't want to go anywhere.
Hello, Hitting the Field family. My name is Andrew Montana, host of Season 19 of The Main Show, and on behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we have to offer here at the network. Mondays at noon, HTF Bets goes live with 3 of the best on-air faces we have in the program. Andrew Gregg's personality, Tyler Brownrick's sports expertise, and Nick Cohen's versatility make this show a fan favorite, but also a warm light to guide you through the harsh world that is the sports betting industry. On Tuesdays, Frankie Noble hosts a brand new show called Girls Got Game, blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next up, we've got The Combine, an easygoing, conversational, and podcast-style show dropping on Wednesdays with Ty Patton as your host. No changes there. But a big change for The Combine is the set. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to The Combine from our brand new podcast studio. We've got the lights, we've got the cameras, all for Ty Patton to bring the action, and we hope you're just as excited as we are for this amazing opportunity. Much great content from The Combine this semester, as always. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for our second live show, The Main Show, hosted by, well, yours truly. Here we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure, be it basketball, football, hockey, soccer, UFC, MMA, cycling, even baseball. But be sure to tune in throughout the semester for our special shows, including drafts, debates, and much, much more. Lastly, Nighttime is aired on Fridays, where Patrick Previty and Matthew Bracker talk about UCF and college sports. From in-depth looks at campus's top storylines to collegiate records being broken nationwide, let Nighttime be your primary college sports resource. And outside of our 5-show roster, be sure to tune into our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog run by Vlog King Nick Cohen, breaking news graphics on our Instagram page, and much more. As well, make sure you're subscribed to Hitting the Field Network on YouTube, as well as following us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. But as for me, I've been Andrew Montana. Thank you so much for watching, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And welcome back. This segment is our top fantasy surprises this season, and we're joined by Kathleen Moore. How are you doing, Kathleen?
I'm doing great. I'm Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks, in case anyone was wondering, but super excited, love fantasy football.
I think it was pretty obvious. I like the costume, and you can't tell on camera, but it is a group costume. Shay is also Simon, and Ashley is Theodore, correct?
Oh yeah, we've got the whole squad.
Absolutely. So we're going to get right into our fantasy surprises with Andrew's pick. Who surprised you so far?
Yeah, so J.K. Dobbins has definitely surprised me this year, coming off of the season where he goes to the Chargers, and you just automatically assume that they're going to be a pass-heavy offense, given the fact that they have Justin Herbert as their quarterback one, and some new additions to their wide receiver and tight end room. But obviously they have Jim Harbaugh coming to their offense, and he is one of the coaches that are more like run the ball down your throat, and he's definitely taken that approach and has taken a liking to J.K. Dobbins. In his first 2 games, he had over 20 fantasy points in each of those games. He had a little bit of a rough stretch when he went under 10 points, but has had more than 16 points in 2 of the last 3 games, which is awesome for a back that you didn't even know if he'd be splitting carries or what would be the case. As Gus Edwards was also a factor in that Ravens running backfield 2 years ago and has come back to the Chargers with J.K. Dobbins. So after he left the Ravens for the Chargers, people didn't really know how he's going to do. He was drafted possibly like in the 10th, 11th round in most leagues. His ADP was very low. He was one of the running backs that was definitely a big question mark coming into the season, but he's averaging 15 points a game, which has definitely been a step up from previous seasons, especially last season because he didn't play because of injury. But J.K. Dobbins has been a healthy surprise. He's the RB17 on the season and definitely one of the bigger surprises of the season, I'd say. He's become a start every single week for most people, and the fact that that is the case is definitely like a shocker this season, I'd say.
No, for sure. I have picked him up in one of my leagues because he was sitting on waivers. Like pretty much almost every league I'd imagine he was in waivers.
I
after the
drafted
draft.
J.K. Dobbins in both my leagues
Did
just
you?
because he would be a starting running back, so I felt like, he's going to get some touches, and I'm fine with taking that in the late round. And it's just been a great story all around because J.K. Dobbins, year after year of his career in the NFL, it was season-ending injury, be it his ACL, his Achilles. So it's just also a feel-good story in a way now where he's finally healthy and he's playing at this level that we saw him play at Ohio State, which feels like a decade ago now.
Well, to be fair, I thought that Kamani Vidal would have a bigger role, which we did see in 1 or 2 weeks, but
Or even Gus Edwards, he split carries with him.
True.
Back
Injured,
when,
great point.
Yeah, when they were playing in Baltimore together, which I think it's interesting that he's just clearly become the RB1 for that team. And he started off the season by going over 100 yards in both of his first 2 games, which it's just kind of awesome to see. He's getting the opportunities, making like a lot of it. So
Greg Roman and Harbaugh look at these guys. They are turning Dobbins into a star from what he was.
it's also a direct reflection of how bad Justin Herbert's been this season. Or like
He's been turning it on, though.
He's winning some games for them, and he has turned it on as of recently. But he was averaging like 170 yards going into like week 7 or like something like that. So definitely a little bit of a comeback to earth season for Justin Herbert. But the fact that he is turning it back up might not be indicative of great things for J.K. Dobbins, but
Yeah, my last ShFire pick of the week, I included Justin Herbert to go over on his total yards. I took an alternate line. It was not likely to happen. I said it was the least confident line I had.
You absolutely shattered it.
Yep, 100%. And in back-to-back weeks, he killed it yesterday as well. But Kathleen, who is your surprising player this season?
Yeah, so I picked Garrett Wilson. He's wide receiver 5. He averages about 16 points per game. Some people, it might not be very shocking, but I am not an Aaron Rodgers believer. I think Aaron Rodgers should have retired 3 seasons ago.
Preach.
So, it's just like,
Pre-darkness, he should have retired.
Yeah.
I just think that seeing a wide receiver do so well under the direction of Aaron Rodgers is like very surprising to me because I wouldn't expect Aaron Rodgers to, give him that many touches and actually be able to get the ball down the field to him. But Garrett Wilson is having a really great year. I think his lowest fantasy performance this year is like 7.1 points, and that was a game against, I think, the Broncos. It was like 9 to 10. Like, it was so low scoring all around for both teams. But other than that, Garrett Wilson has been in the double digits. He's had a very consistent couple of weeks. He had a 30-point game, which is honestly really impressive, and I wouldn't expect that kind of performance out of a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers.
100%. And even adding Devontae Adams hasn't really shown to be that big of an impact on Garrett Wilson's fantasy game. So I don't hate the pick whatsoever. Wide receiver 5. Although people were drafting him in the first 2, maybe even 3 rounds, wide receiver 5 I don't think was really, a projection for him.
I didn't see that in the cards.
Yeah, I think the big thing that's really surprising, though, even though he is a guy that's valued high, the Jets are terrible.
yeah.
They
They
are.
are terrible
so
this
bad.
year.
Dare
But
I
yet
say worse than the Dolphins?
They might be. There's only, I think, one team with less losses, and that's the Panthers. But this offense, which has been terrible, Garrett Wilson has still been producing. So that the fact that he has been keeping up this high-level fantasy production is impressive in an offense this garbage.
Well, what I'm
100%.
shocked by is that Devontae Adams hasn't taken over this passing game because, when that trade was made, I was like, okay, Garrett Wilson's done because I have him in fantasy, and I was like, okay, he's
I looked to trade
absolutely
him as
done
well.
for. So,
Yep.
I don't know. I was so shocked that Devontae Adams hasn't absolutely destroyed this running or passing game.
Yeah. I'm going to move right into my pick, though. I have Brock Bowers, tight end 1 in fantasy this year of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew that he was going to be pretty good because I thought for sure he had top 6 tight end potential. I was unable to draft him in all leagues because he was taken before me, so hence why I say I think everyone knew he was going to be good, but not tight end 1, okay? He is averaging just about 14 points per game. He has had 3 disappointing games, including yesterday, and it wasn't even all that disappointing. Finished with 10.8 points, 5 receptions, 58 yards. But he's just been outstanding. Heading into yesterday's games, he was second in the league for catches, which is just ridiculous for a rookie tight end. So I wanted to give him his flowers, and I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Bucks. I drafted him in 2 leagues, knowing he would be good. I drafted him in the 5th or 6th round. I honestly can't remember. I didn't choose him because he is now out for the season, which breaks my heart and breaks my fantasy team. But wide receiver 1 for many, many weeks, just because he racks up those receptions. He was playing absolutely amazing this fantasy football season. But we have time for one more surprise, Tyler. Who is that?
Truba Hubbard. He has been outstanding this season for what has been a terrible Carolina Panthers offense. And you viewers might remember, Andrew told you to drop this guy week 1 or 2, I believe it was. And then he just goes on this absolute tear, is currently the RB10, averaging just under 15 points per game. He has been an outstanding player for you if you've had a lack of running back and you decided to take a chance on him on waivers. This guy has been outstanding. He has been one of the really unsung heroes on what's been a terrible Panthers team with, they've had weapons on fantasy with, Deontay Johnson is another guy who's been great, Adam Thielen when he was healthy, and now Truba Hubbard has been that guy for him. And I think he'll still keep it up. Obviously, maybe top 10s. Maybe this is as high as his ranking will be, and it might slow down a bit.
9. He was 9 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna start to come back to earth a little bit, but he will still be like a solid flex running back for you if that's your need.
I would like to say I am proud because I sold high on him in a trade, wrapped him up with Kamara, and I got a good return. But that is going to be it for our surprises. Thank you very much, Kathleen, for coming on. And also shout out to Ben Huber earlier. I forgot to thank him. But after this commercial, we will be doing our ShFire Picks of the week, so don't go anywhere.
Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs, September 5th, Thursday Night Football. I am taking the Baltimore Ravens at plus 130 to win this. Kansas City, when they were the season opener last year, they lost that game. Historically, they're not that great in this position.
I have Truba Hubbard as one of my drops. Unfortunately, he's in an offense where he just won't be getting any carries because of how bad the offense is. He's one of the people I'd drop as one of the fastest drops in fantasy football.
This league has not been what I thought it would be, okay? I thought I would be undefeated. I walked away from that draft. I got Tyreek Hill at number 6, and I thought I won. And welcome back. It is everyone's favorite segment of the week, ShFire Picks. And Andrew, I assume this is going to be your favorite ShFire Pick segment because you hit.
He did it!
Tell us about it. We now have broken the record for most combined wins in a season, and it's only been a couple short weeks, and it was a group effort. Get into your win. How excited were you?
Yeah, so I was so excited that I was able to catch the last 5 minutes of the game that I bet on, which was crazy for me because I tuned in and everything was already going well, and the Ravens brought it home for me. As I had the Ravens winning in regulation as well as Baker Mayfield's over on passing yards and the over in the total game, which I had a couple of the people over here were speculating that it wasn't going to go well, but I think that it's all the proof is in the pudding, and 14-9-1 is the official all-time record, and 1-7 is the ShFire Picks of the Week record if anybody's keeping track. It's been a long road and it's been a long time coming. I'm glad that I wasn't able to tie any of the worst records, and it definitely won't go down as one of the most impressive runs in hitting the field bets history, but I'm glad that I was finally able to get on the board here.
For sure. You avoided the 8 losses in a row record, so I'm proud of you for that.
I appreciate it.
We're going to get into your pick very soon, but first, Tyler, tell us about yours.
I am going back to the NBA for this one. Bulls at Grizzlies tonight at 8 p.m. For this, I'm going with the Grizzlies money line sitting at -130. This is a Grizzlies team that is looking to put itself back on the map in the NBA, right? We have Ja Morant coming back from injury this season, and they're now playing a Bulls team that has always just been mid for as long as I can remember. So with Ja Morant, I'm taking the over on his points line. That's 19.5. That's sitting at -105. I expect Ja Morant to go out there and just do what Ja Morant does. He's going to be flying all over, dunking over people, hitting threes. I think this will be an easy one for him. They obviously no Alex Caruso anymore, remember, on this Grizzlies team, and I doubt Kobe White can guard him. But speaking of Kobe White, I will take the over on his assist line. That line's sitting at 4.5, and sitting at -120. Kobe White is an outstanding playmaker and a really underrated one at that. Arguably should have won most improved player the other year, but sadly didn't. But again, I think Kobe White 5 is very doable for him.
For sure. I like the pick. And your total parlay odds are
sitting at +363.
All right, very nice. Andrew, get into your pick. You're joining the Panthers train in hockey betting. It worked for me last time, so a 2-0 run for you could be pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can transition to 2-0 on both the respectives of me hitting in back-to-back weeks, as well as the Florida Panthers winning on each of the times that we bet on them on ShFire Picks of the Week. For my parlay, I have the Florida Panthers money line sitting at -160. I also have the over of 6 goals at -125, and I have the Florida Panthers to score first at -125. This game is between 2 of the top 3 seeds in the Atlantic Division currently in the NHL. And the Sabres have gotten off to a hot start, but the defending champions, the Florida Panthers, I think are just the better team, which is why I'm taking them on the money line. Not the 3-way money line. I'm just in case this game goes to overtime for the push of maybe a 3-3 going in, and then a 4-3 overtime win, or any other scenario where it could possibly end up going to overtime. I think that I'm going to play it safe by just taking the regular money line and having it sit there. But I think that the Panthers are just the better team, and it'll be a high-scoring game, as both of these teams currently sit in at least like a 0 differential or a negative differential for goals allowed. So that means that they have more goals allowed than goals scored this season, which is kind of crazy because these teams both have a positive record currently. But I think that given that fact, I think that the over 6 is likely to hit, and then obviously I'm a Panthers fan, so it's a little bit of a bias, but the money line for the Panthers to score first, I think that'll also happen.
Of course, South Florida natives, you know.
Yeah.
So for my ShFire pick, and my record is sitting at 4-4, just saying. I'm still trying to make up a little bit for when I bet on the Yankees a couple weeks ago, 2 episodes ago actually, because it did hit, but my combined parlay odds were like plus 100 something. So that was still embarrassing. But so I'm making up, okay? I took 3 alternate lines in this game. I'm doing Monday Night Football again. I know I haven't hit yet on it, but it's okay. New York Giants at Pittsburgh Steelers tonight at 8:15 p.m. I'm taking the Steelers alternate point spread at -4.5, basically because, you know, their spread was 6.5, but I think maybe if they win by 5, it's not covered. So I'm taking the alternate line, okay? Najee Harris, alternate line of over 69.5 rushing yards, sitting at +100. He's been on tear. He has back-to-back weeks of over 100+ rushing yards and a touchdown, I might add. So I think that line will certainly cash. And then finally, I have the alternate line of over 9.5 kicking points for Chris Boswell, sitting at +250. That one is
This is your long
stretch.
shot. It
is. But my thought process is, okay, he's the #1 kicker in fantasy in terms of points, okay? Even if he just kicks 3 field goals, which is so doable for him, if one of those is longer than 40 yards, that's cashed, okay? So I think that, shockingly enough, I think that's my easiest bet, and Najee might be my longest stretch.
Kicker fantasy points.
Yes.
Okay.
I think what's just tough about this is because you need the offense to be good enough where Najee's getting plenty of carries and getting the yards, but not too good where they're getting touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's where it struggles because you also have the point spread, so you're walking a very fine line here.
Yeah.
I think
No
under
doubt.
Justin Fields, this bet definitely looks a lot better because of the fact that the offense kind of stagnates once it gets past the 50-yard line. But I think that Russell Wilson might be able to throw a couple deep balls, get you in range, and then have Chris Boswell hit a couple 50-yarders, and then that's probably the only way
guys,
that hits.
sitting at a total parlay odds of plus 1,100.
That might be a record.
That could be a record, but it will redeem myself. Even if I lose, okay, I'm taking the risk. I will redeem myself from 2 weeks ago. But sitting at 4-4, 50% of the time, my picks cash 100% of the time. So that's going to do it for our show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everyone in production on behalf of Ben Huber, Kathleen Moore, LA Knight, and Bob. I'm Ron Burgundy. Damn it, who put a question mark there? Stay classy, San Diego, and don't have a good evening.